And welcome to this week's edition of Best of the Best Businesses in Central Mass. I'm Siobhan Weber from Castanetti Realty Group, and I am here at Second Chance Animal Services in Southbridge to talk about the amazing journey that you have undertaken here in the community. And you want to tell us a little bit? We have a book here that we're going to take home later and read, but do you want to tell us a little bit about how kind of your organization started and your evolution up until this point?
Sure. So my name is Lindsay Doré. I am the Chief Development Officer here at Second Chance. So Second Chance started as a small, the little shelter that could. We started in 1999 as, foster-based, and, quickly our CEO and founder did a lot of work to get us the fundraising so that we had a brick and mortar, physical shelter. And after, being there and obviously helping, a lot of animals find new homes, it was, what can we do? What more can we be doing? So we ended up we had a spay neuter clinic that was in the back of that building. And if you ever see our adoption center, it is this little tiny building. And the back room, they used to have as their surgery room, and they would do spay neuter. And what happened was it was designed for, spay neuter for the shelter pets. And then quickly people, in the community needed help. So we started doing spay neuter days there. And again, people knew that there were vets there. So we would start to get phone calls of people, needing help and not being able to afford the high costs of veterinary care, and, asking if we could see their animal. So we started offering more vaccine clinics to help, people with, some of that. Because obviously going to the vets, if all you need is, a vaccine, you're paying for, the office exam and everything. And, for some people, it meant that their pet maybe wasn't getting vaccinated because they couldn't do it. So we started there. And then, when we expanded into doing more spay neuter for the community, we were asked for more and more services, and we were like, geez, there really needs to be somebody that's offering wellness exams, because that's what a lot of these people, need. And so we opened our North Brookfield location as a wellness center, and it was going to be high volume spay neuter and wellness exams. And then quickly it was okay, well, the people are coming to us for wellness exams, but these animals really need more than that. They're coming in because they're sick, not just for your, basic exam. So we started offering more and more services, because we knew that, for some, when we were getting the calls at the adoption center for surrender, it was people saying, geez, I need to surrender my pet because I just can't afford to take it to the vets. And, or, my cat or my dog is sick and I can't afford, whatever it may be. So this was a way to, surrender prevention, keep the pet in its home, by offering a service at, a reduced cost. And then people were able to do it, because what we have found is, if the costs, if the services are affordable, people are going to do what they can to keep their pet.
Right.
But unfortunately, when emergencies come up, a lot of times people just aren't prepared for it. So we started offering more and more services there, and the amount of medical equipment and diagnostic stuff we have now is because the need was there. It was, people were coming in, and rather than have to refer them somewhere that if they couldn't afford, the sick visit, they're not going to be able to afford to go and get, ultrasounds, x-rays, and all of this additional stuff done. So we did a lot of work applying for grants so that we had the medical equipment there, so that it was more of a, one-stop shop, and we were able to help them with whatever the need was and keep that pet in its home. So we've continued on that, and we've grown on that. We now have hospitals in, we have the North Brookfield one, which is now full-service hospital as opposed to a wellness center. We've expanded. We have a hospital out in Springfield on Mulberry Street. We have one on Main Street in Worcester. We have the one that we're at today, which is in Southbridge. So, we have all of these great hospitals, and some of them are a little bit unique in their services. As I mentioned, Southbridge is an educational hospital. So we have students here from Bay Path Regional Vocational Technical High School that are working alongside of our vets and vet techs, so that they can get some hands-on experience and then decide whether, after high school, if they want to go straight into the field as a vet tech assistant or a vet assistant, or if they want to continue on and become a certified vet tech or a veterinarian. But, obviously the skills and the foundation that they're getting is going to help them to figure out, where exactly they want to be, because animal welfare is not for everybody. Certainly people assume that we just play with puppies and kitties all day, and I wish, I don't know, maybe that's how they got me here, I don't know, but.
I came in looking for animals, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
so,
no,
so I
everybody
think that was, the misperception is real. I think I was looking for them, so.
There's still people that, it gets expensive. We all know that cost gets expensive.
Oh, we know. Yes. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the goal is to make it so that everybody has access to care.
Right.
Everybody, can still find the services and get the services that they need, whether it be an emergency or, simple wellness visits.
I think everybody needs to know everything that you guys have here. So
Yeah.
that's why I'm glad that we're here today.
Yeah,
because
yeah, no.
I didn't know half of this stuff, and I follow you guys, so.
Yeah, no, so it's great information because we want people to know that we're here. We want people to know about the services because sometimes what happens is an emergency happens, not everybody's prepared for an emergency with their pet. Nobody wants to think the worst. And when you're talking specifically the populations and the demographics that we're serving in the areas that we're serving, most of those people, they don't have it when an emergency comes up. So when that happens, they're faced with the decision of, do I have to euthanize my pet because I can't afford care, or can I find a shelter that will take it, and then the shelter takes on that burden of the medical expense, or they have to make the same call. However, if they come to us, we have those services. They're at a discount. They can still use care credit. For those that still can't afford it, we always are trying to apply for grants and try and have other things available. And there are different foundations out there that the individual can apply to when the emergency comes up. And a lot of them are very responsive and get back to us or them very, very quickly. But it's on the owner to apply for. We can provide the tools on that, but we can't fill out the paperwork.
Think of an owner having to surrender their animal, that they love, but just because they can't afford it. It's brutal.
It is. It is. So there's people that were coming to us with nowhere to turn.
We've chatted. Yeah.
Yep.
It's awful.
Yep.
And having to make that, I can't even imagine having to make that decision.
Well, and sometimes it's the things that are very real. You look at the divorce rate in this country, and people splitting, and they go from a house to both parents living in apartments. I can remember stories from when I worked there that literally I don't ever want to think about.
I know.
Sorry.
I know. Listen,
yep.
We hear
no,
it all
I
the
know.
time.
I know.
People I don't want to give up my. I know a lot of people that have lived in their cars. I actually just helped a lady who had 2 dogs and lived in her car for like a year and a half. Couldn't find housing. Everything was so expensive. Needed vet care. Needed food. It's. Think of regular people with 2 incomes.
Yeah.
And they can barely make it. So,
correct.
Yeah.
Well, and right now you're looking at a boom in the housing costs. You're looking at high inflation. You're looking at all of those increased costs that then affect their bottom line and their ability to help.
Right.
So when any of that stuff happens, they don't have somewhere to turn.
Right.
That's why it's really important for us, our food pantry. Our food pantry has doubled with the number of pantries that we're helping.
Yep.
We send the food direct to like the church food pantries and the food pantries that are distributing in the community.
Yep.
We don't have the staff or the manpower to do it here where people would be showing up at all hours.
All the community fridges everywhere.
That and it's easier and more beneficial for everybody if we send it to the food pantries where they're already going.
Yep.
It's like a one-stop shopping. So they can go there, and while they're there picking up food for themselves, they're able to get their pet food. Because what happens, again, people will not pick up their medications because they want to be able to provide food for their pet. Or they will pick up the food that's meant for them, and if that pantry doesn't have food for the pets, they're feeding that food to the pet, and they're going without.
I would go without in a second to feed my dogs, 100%.
Yep.
And that's why what's so amazing about you guys is that you take all that worry away from people, and I really, the most important thing that I want people to get out of this is every single thing that you have to offer. Even talking to you in 10 minutes, like I follow you guys, I donate to you guys, I didn't know half of this.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely excited to take a tour and definitely learn more. So
so there's that program. Obviously the hospitals that we talked about, the Homebound to the Rescue, all of those things are making it so that not only the people in the community have somewhere to go, but we also work with a lot of other shelters and rescues because we know how much we spend on the medical for our pets. And for us to be able to offer these services at reduced cost for shelters and rescues too, they're able to help more pets too. So it's for the greater good of the community, the shelters, and everybody.
And at the end of the day, it's about the dogs and the cats.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
All we want to do is save animals, keep them reunited or keep them with their owners, and
Correct.
that's it.
Correct. And by being able to do that, we're able to help shelters that are further and further away from us.
Right.
We're able to take in animals that are leaving because of hurricane. We took in cats out of the most recent
Another,
hurricane. Yep, we've taken dogs out of the meat trade in South Korea through the Humane Society International.
Amazing.
So it's
Yeah.
it's exciting for us to be able to help not only locally but
Right.
beyond.
It's just sad there's such a need for it. You
It
know,
is.
I mean, at the end of the day,
It
like, why? You know, so
It is.
now we have to.
And it's the programs. That's where we're trying to be proactive and get the
Yeah.
services into the community, because we know if we can help these people and they're able to provide the vaccines and they're able to provide the wellness exams, they're able to catch things sooner so that it doesn't become a catastrophic emergency. And if something does, we're able to help keep them in their home,
Right.
because nobody wants to see a 15-year-old dog in a
Ugh.
shelter, because their chance of adoption,
Slim
are
down.
lower.
Right. And
Um,
imagine the dog being taken from like, this is what kills me the most, is when I see it all the time, people surrendering their animals. Imagine this dog being in your house for 15 years and all of a sudden it's in a shelter by itself. That's what kills me. Like, I can't even, those stories.
So for me, when I go and I've spoken in the community and stuff, people will say to me, well, if they don't have the money for a pet, they shouldn't have one. Well, for us, that's not the right way of thinking.
Right.
Because, and then I usually, I like to explain the why.
Yep.
And, it comes down to things happen.
Right.
Things happen, whether you're 40
course.
years old,
Yep.
20 years old, 80 years old. When you're no longer in the workforce,
Yep.
and you're living on Social Security, does that mean that you shouldn't have a pet because you are no longer working?
Exactly.
No, you're
That's
not going
such
to
a-
give up the pet that you've had for 15
Right.
years.
That's such an antiquated mindset. Give me a
Well,
break.
and when people say that, and I bring up the senior that's living on Social Security that's had the animal for 15 years, they're like, oh, well, those people you can help. And I'm like, okay,
Right.
well, what about the woman who, lost her husband at 45 years old
Right.
and now is trying to raise 3 kids and
Right.
was a stay-at-home mom and now has to go back to work and is going to struggle just to
Right.
put food on the table? Well, no, those people too. And I'm like, well, these are the real
Right,
stories.
right.
These are who we're helping.
Right. You're not just
You know-
trying to cherry pick, I mean, you have
Correct.
to help the broad market. So.
Well, correct. And
Right.
all of those circumstances are things that you don't anticipate.
Yeah.
I
you
mean,
never know.
you don't know what age
But the
you're going to
cost of
retire.
everything, right? And with inflation everywhere,
Mhm.
pet food, pet insurance, I mean, going to the vet, everything.
Right.
And at the end of the day, too, it's not the vet's fault.
No.
I mean, we hear this,
I
my
know,
poor
I
vet,
know.
every time I go, I mean, they're abusing, you guys get the abuse, it's brutal.
Yeah. So the turnover rate in the veterinary world
Oh.
is a lot higher than probably most other fields, especially right now. They were essential workers and frontline workers during the pandemic, and they were not,
Oh.
were not given any sort of, kudos or,
Right.
anything for doing that. And it has taken a toll. People upset that they, during the pandemic, they couldn't go into the appointments with their pets.
Right.
And they were taking it out on the receptionists, the techs, the
Disgusting.
vets.
And the suicide rate.
Yes.
I mean, that's
Yes.
a whole nother story we could cover for hours. It
Yes.
is the mindset and the mentality, especially since COVID, I'm sure you've seen it. I mean, it is disgusting.
People have left the field in droves.
Yeah.
And that is
And
why there's
understandably so.
there's a huge vet shortage in the United States across the country, not just New England specific. This is everywhere,
Yeah.
which is making it harder to get appointments, and even harder for those surgical appointments because there's just not enough vets and vet techs. So it definitely is taking its toll. And then when people can't get an appointment on the day or the time that they want, they're taking it out on the receptionist. So I mean, I give ours a lot of credit because people aren't always nice. And
know that.
we've definitely
That's
seen
why
that.
Dr. Morlock Community Animal Hospital, I love you so much. Thank you. But it's true. You have to show appreciation. At the end of the day,
Yep.
these guys worked nonstop. COVID protocols, no one knew what was next. I hear stories from them constantly of people going crazy. Like, I couldn't get an appointment the other day. I was like, all right, put me in whatever. It wasn't an emergency. And she's like, thank you so much for being understanding. The vet should not be thanking me for being understanding. Like, they're taking my pet in. It's such a backwards mentality that, something needs to change. And
Yeah.
we see it day in and day
Yeah.
out.
And it's everyone just needs to be kind. We're all living in a world that we never anticipated,
Right.
and everything. I mean, it's already hard enough. Everything is already hard enough,
Yeah.
and people are fighting battles that you don't know about. And I mean, we definitely see it, and I love being here. I'm very passionate about what we do here
Yeah.
because we want to be here to help. We
Right.
want to be able to help everybody.